All right, we are live again today on LinkedIn as well as Pact's YouTube channel. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about going from black box to white box, or basically going from unexplainable AI to explainable AI with Denis Rothman, who is the author of this awesome book, Hands-on Explainable AI, or XAI as he refers to it, with Python. So full disclosure, I'm about halfway through the book and I've kind of been skipping around, but definitely some really great insights. Highly recommended to anyone who wants to get, some knowledge on explainable AI. There's plenty of Python code in there. And as Denis told me, you can still get a lot if you ignore the code. So if you're not a Python coder, you can still get a lot of value from that session. So if you're joining us today, the first thing I'll let you know is you actually have a chance to win an actual copy of this book. So 3 people will receive a copy of this book, and the winners are actually selected by the best questions asked. So Pact, who is the publisher of this book, is going to select 3 names. They're watching during the session, and they're going to pick 3 names. They're going to send it to me about 20, 30 minutes into the session. So go ahead and ask your best questions for Denis. Before I bring Denis onto the stage, I do want to get a sense for where the audience sits with explainable AI. Or just trust in AI in general. Now, the scenario is as such. You are not feeling well, and you need to go to a doctor to understand what's wrong with you. And you have 2 options. One, you can go to a doctor, the traditional doctor, the white lab coat, you go in, you sit down, and they check you and give you a diagnosis. And the other option is going to a full robotics AI facility that can also treat you and also give you a diagnosis. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And while you do that, I'm going to bring Denis Rothman onto the stage. Hello, Denis.
Hi, Kate. Here we are.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
So thanks for making me laugh a lot right before I kicked off. So I had to compose myself before going live. But yeah,
try to
guys.
keep a straight face. Try to keep a straight face.
Yes. Well, I mean, happy is good too, right? So
yeah, happy is good too, especially nowadays.
Yes, absolutely. So Denis, let's start with an easy question. Tell us about yourself. Who is Denis Rothman?
Well, I'm Denis Rothman. I was born in Germany from Russian American father and an Italian American mother. So I'm coming from, and I've been living in France for a long time. And so I'm a mixture of many cultures. So basically, I started AI 35 plus years ago. I registered a word to vector patent. And I've been doing artificial intelligence all my life in about every field, computer vision, voice recognition, and working mainly with large corporations like airlines, aerospace. And recently, I began to write books and become a speaker and share my thoughts. So here I am today. And if you want more, then you have my LinkedIn profile so that I don't put you to sleep in 2 minutes. So if you want more, it's on my LinkedIn profile.
I doubt anyone will fall asleep during this session. Yes, that's all I'm going to say. So I don't want to warn the audience just yet about where this conversation is going.
Disclaimer, you will not fall asleep in this session.
Yes, that's a guarantee. Well, I can't guarantee. I've been reading up a lot on guarantees, so I can assure you won't fall asleep. So you mentioned you're doing work with large corporations. Talk a bit more about that. What kind of work are you doing there?
Well, when I started out, maybe like the real stuff like 30 years ago, artificial intelligence was in a winter. So I had to figure out how I was going to pay for my mortgage, my debts, my car debts, and all that because I was younger. So the thing I found is to go to a corporation, a major one like LVMH, or Lacoste, the crocodile people know more, or Air France, or Disney, or to someone and say, listen, I'll tell you what, I'm going to install a system, and if you earn money, then you'll pay me. And if you don't earn any money, well, don't give me anything because it's worth nothing, okay? And I don't want to have legal problems. So I started out by asking for a percentage of what I earned for them. And that worked very well because then there was this trust that built up very quickly. And I was using explainable AI from the start so that the user would understand how it works. And I said, you have to understand how it works to accept it. So that's how I got into corporations, and many corporations.
All right, and then at this point, I want to just look at the comments. So Ravit is here, and he thinks you're a rock star, Dennis. So that's good.
I don't have
Um,
my guitar today, but I can come with a. I have a piano.
okay, good. We'll do that at the end of the session. My niece is here, so she's actually getting into data. So good to see that, Rita, you joined the LinkedIn Live. We've got Ayush is here saying hello. Vishal said, Venice last year is working on a similar AI-based solution for healthcare with all kinds of diagnosis. All right, interesting. Yeah, actually, I don't see any responses to my question, guys. AI or doctor? I mean,
You
Dennis,
want me
I
to
know.
answer it? I can answer it for you.
Yeah, Dennis, what do you think? AI or doctor?
So first, I'd like to say thank you to the people that know me and that connected to this live session. That's very nice and kind of them. So if you have to make this kind of choice, well, you don't make the choice. If we're talking 10 years from now, you don't want to go see a doctor that's not using artificial intelligence, and you don't want to go see artificial intelligence without a doctor, because I believe in collaboratory artificial intelligence, what I call cobots. You have a human and a bot, and it makes a cobot. So I'd like to see a doctor that's just analyzing me as usual, and then you have maybe some sensors around, and you have this program giving him ideas
Yeah,
that can help him, because there are some complex things. Like in the first chapter of my book, I did that. I worked with a doctor, and I said, "Well, give me a situation in which you can't find a solution alone." And we're talking about like end of 2019, early 2020. So COVID wasn't really official, but
yeah,
you have to know there were fevers around already. And he said, I have this case where there's this guy has this fever, and I've never seen this. I don't know what it is. So we said, suppose you had his location with Google history. Suppose we found out the places he went to, and maybe we can find a virus somewhere. So we took this example of, maybe you don't know about this, Kate, and I'm going to scare you for the rest of your life. Is called the West Nile virus.
I just read that in the book,
It's
Dennis.
terrifying because it came with a mosquito. The little mosquito that hit a bird, and the bird went over the Atlantic to New York, to where you live,
I know.
in the
Listen,
1999 2000, and killed I don't know how many people.
yeah,
And then ever since, no one has found a solution. So every year in the United States, about 15,000 people die with that. So I did this case where the person went to Chicago, and I found it with Google history, but then the person went back to France. So the doctor says, we don't have any of this. Where did you go to? So you can see that artificial intelligence can help the doctor. The
yeah.
doctor can help artificial intelligence become smarter. But I'd say for at least the next 10, 20, 25 years, don't answer the question. Ask for both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. So one thing I'll let you know is I was reading actually with my niece in a park. I was reading this book, and I remember telling her this. Um, we were in a park, and it was what, last week, so it was very hot and sunny,
And
and
there was a mosquito.
there's mosquitoes eating me alive, and she's spraying me with alcohol or some other thing in the bottle, which is, I'm sorry, it was not working. And I'm reading about this deadly mosquito, and I actually took a picture. I might post it because I was being bitten as I'm reading about these
And
deadly.
it's in New York every year too.
Perfect. So, anyways, we've got some comments here. Avery says AI, never trust doctors. Okay. Dehan says doctor, hybrid doc with AI. We've got doctor. Some prefer AI, a doctored AI, augmented intelligence. So, yeah, Matthew says that the best AI is that which works with a human, not actually replaces them. So, a lot of people are agreeing with your points
Yeah,
here.
Matthew summed it up pretty good. The best idea is that works with a human, not replaces them, of course. For the
Yeah.
moment. For the moment. Maybe we'll talk about this in 25, 50 years, but for the moment, let's be careful.
Yes, yes, and Anne actually brings up the point about contact tracing and how AI can help. And you get to that point where if everyone has their Google location tracker set on and brings their phone everywhere, then I guess that helps with the contact tracing, right?
Right. That's
So,
right. So
it
yeah, what if it outsmarts the doctor? Now that is a real problem.
is it?
Yes, because it happens.
So it's a real problem, not it's a real problem. Real problem.
That question is a tough one because, first of all, the artificial intelligence program can make a false positive or false negative that will puzzle the doctor.
Yeah.
But then also, the doctor often makes false positives or false negatives too. Like you have a fever, oh, well, go home and take some aspirin and come back in a few days if you have a problem. But then the person might be dead in 3 days. So a doctor can make a mistake. Maybe the artificial intelligence program can help him at that point, say, be very, very careful because I have a high probability that you're facing something that can be, meningitis or something like that. So this can happen in some cases. So we have to be but Matthew summed it up in the other users, put them together and build trust with explainable AI. So if the doctor won't trust the software if he doesn't understand it. But if you're explaining everything all along, the doctor is going to learn from the program, and the program is going to learn from the doctor. So they have to talk and not just get answers, arbitrary answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a question here from Tejas that was actually going to be the question I was going to pose to you. My question was broader in terms of, can you define what is explainable AI to the audience for those that are not familiar with it? But Tejas is asking, does explainable AI mean interpreting the results from the model that can be explainable with domain experts?
Okay, so explainable AI, let's put it in a nutshell. Suppose I say, I like cake. Okay, take a sentence, I like cake. And in the sentence, you say, let's simplify it. I is one, cake is two, and three is like. Okay. And then
Yeah.
you can have I like chocolate, and then you have all these numbers. Okay. So that's the beginning of artificial intelligence program, is that we convert everything into numbers.
Mhm.
And we call them vectors. So because we put all these numbers together, so they make a pack of numbers. Then we say, well, there are too many numbers. So let's take it another level and let's just take some of the numbers we need to make a decision. Oh, that's good. Well, let's take another. And at one point, you reach a series of numbers. You don't recognize anything. Like I like cake has become 32,450. You don't understand anything anymore. And then all of a sudden it gives you a result. And it
Yeah.
tells you Kate doesn't like cake. And you said, how did he reach a result like that when I said, I like cake? Kate likes cake. And then he made this false negative saying, I don't like cake. But then remember, we have millions and millions of records. So
Yeah.
now you're saying, I don't trust that system anymore.
Yeah.
And it takes only one error to destroy the trust
Yeah.
for a user. So then explainable AI say, okay, let's forget about the algorithm. So AI, like explainable AI, is model agnostic. It doesn't care about the model. It's not interested in the model at all. In fact, the model can do anything it wants. Explainable AI is not interested. It's going to take the input. At one point, it said Kate liked cake, and Kate liked something else. And the other side, it sees it's negative. It's something's wrong. So now we have to explain that. So what we can do is look, we're going to look at each word and we're going to try to take one word out, put it back in again, compare it to maybe another sentence where he got it right and see exactly what's wrong. And then we can say, oh, Kate likes cake came out as false negative because in another sentence she says, I'm on a diet.
Oh, I'm
So
not.
it will go and it will just look at your input. It will find words with a lot of equations. It's just a different field. It's a different field. It's full of algorithms that are very different from artificial intelligence per se, and it will give you examples. Now, to give another one, which is probably easy to understand, we have to recognize a cat. Okay, it's in chapter 11 of the book. It's called With Anchors. So you have the picture of a nice little cat.
I'll find it.
And then you say,
That's
how does
always
it?
very important.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
chapter 11, maybe, Anchors.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the cat. You have the cat. So you say, how do I know that's a cat? I mean, that's not possible. How did he know it's a cat? So what we do is we take the image apart and then we feed things, we look back into what's happening, and then we just find the eyes, the nose, and a little part of the mouth, and then we show it.
Yeah.
So explainable AI is really pinpointing the exact feature that made the difference.
Hmm. But what if the mouth was covered?
If the mouth is covered, it shouldn't answer.
Hmm.
It
Okay.
shouldn't answer. I mean, if the mouth is covered and suppose you have the eyes and it can't find an answer, normally we have what we call a threshold, which
Hmm.
means I'm saying, listen, do you want to go to the movies? And you say, well, maybe. I said, well, if you say maybe, we're not going.
Hmm.
Then, so I said the threat, and you say, well, I don't want to go. That's a good threshold. Or say, I really want to go. So what you do is you put thresholds in there, saying if it's not really a high probability, and you just say, oh, I might want to go. I'd say, well, just forget it. We're not going. Okay. So you put a
Can't
threshold
go
in.
anyway, Dennis. The movie theaters are closed, so that's a moot point.
We don't have to worry about it. Okay. But in France, they're open.
Oh, are they? Okay, I didn't know. All right.
We can go to the movies, but I don't go to the movies because I'm scared of getting COVID.
Okay.
I'm scared. I'm
All right. So, scared man. Question here from Travis. Let's move this along. So, would you compare the use of AI in healthcare to the use of AI in self-driving cars? Often both have been judged based on their failures versus their triumphs. Ooh, that's big.
okay. So Travis, first of all, we have to separate the two subjects because self-driving with autopilots is something insane. I mean, if you drive a car, you know that human beings are insane. So when we're driving, we have millions of situations that no one can think of. You know, someone going crossing the street when he's not supposed to, drinking a soda, a guy with a bicycle riding bike with no hands on the bars, looking at streaming. So it's an open environment. It's what we call an open environment.
Yeah.
So many parameters come in there that's impossible. In fact, you don't know when you get up in the morning, you drive a car, if you're going to ever get to the place where you want it to be without getting a scratch, someone yelling at you, someone breaking with. Okay, so self-driving cars is an open place where you have features just coming in and coming in. Healthcare is different. The
Yeah.
researchers do the research in a closed environment. They
Hmm.
will take a panel of patients and they will take a panel of patients not using AI. They will use it with a certain number of features. They will close the situation and then they will measure the results that we produce compared to the real results a doctor would give in a very closed environment. So that's pretty easy. I mean, so
Can it
it's
really be a closed environment though? Because people tend to do things, unpredictable things, like eating 16 cheeseburgers with a pint of ice cream at the end. And that might impact results of experiment, unless you're literally locking them up with a chip.
okay. So now, suppose if your experiment is an open experiment
Yeah.
on the weight of a person on a diet in a month, then we're back into an open environment because we
Okay.
can always do. If you want to do that, you have to put them in a clinic. You have to
Hmm.
pay them for a month, what researchers usually do, and just eats what we give them.
Okay.
And then we can see that if someone eats meat every day, we'll see that person A eats the same thing as person B, and strangely enough, they don't lose the same amount of weight in the month because then genetic factors come in or other factors.
Hmm.
So if Travis has a follow-up question, he can ask it, or we can move on to whatever you want.
We have so many questions coming in from the audience. It's honestly hard to choose. So while I look for that, why don't you tell people why you wrote the book? What was your thinking behind writing it? What motivated you? How long did it take? Tell us that story.
Okay, so PACT published Artificial Intelligence by Example, second edition, end of February. Okay.
Okay.
And I looked at the book and I was thinking, and I was talking to people around me, and I saw that people honestly didn't understand artificial intelligence, even though they worked in artificial intelligence. So, and then there's this very bright person at PACT called Tushar Gupta. I
Okay.
don't know if you know him. Tushar Gupta is a visionary. He's a very young person, but he's a visionary in the sense that he told me, I'm going to give you a list of books you can write because we're confined and all that. It's a lockdown. And I know that you can get quickly bored and you want to do something. I'm sure you'll like Explainable AI because it'll fit well with the other book where you're going to explain. And then I'm always hesitant. So I looked into it and I say, yeah, that's a good idea because this way with this book, I'll be able to talk to people that don't understand the first book.
Okay.
So if you put both books together, then you
Yeah.
have it. You can learn the algorithms and then you can learn how to explain them. And there's a second factor is that the laws are changing very quickly, very,
Mhm.
very quickly. In Europe, we have what we call the GRPD. You
GDPR. Yes.
GDPR, it's mandatory. If someone asks you to explain why an automatic system gave an answer, you give it, or it can cost you like 3 or 4% of your turnover and a
Yeah.
20 million euro fine. In the United States, today, discrimination is becoming a very sensitive subject. And there are laws in several states now banning information on race and gender. If you
Mm.
take these two factors in the United States, you'll see that in chapter 5 of my book, people give you a data set to predict the income of someone based on race and gender.
Hmm.
That drives me literally through the roof. I mean, of course, I mean, first of all, race doesn't exist because 20 years ago, people found the, genetic code. And it's just skin is like a color, like the color of your hair. So someone's blonde, yeah, okay, he's black, brown, who cares? Green, yellow. I mean, it makes no difference. I mean, people can even paint themselves in blue. I don't see how it's going to affect their way of thinking at all. So, and you can't judge someone like that. So what Explainable AI does is I took this database as it was given to me and I used this, I would say, biased data and I obtained a result. Then what I did is I just took it out. I said, I don't believe in race. I
Yeah.
don't believe in these origins. I don't believe in gender. I don't believe that a woman that was married and divorced might learn. I don't care. I took education and age. I took the number of years of education of a person and I took the person's age. And I found that someone between 30 and 50 with I'm going to take the top extreme with more than 12 years of college, 12 years of education, including in a field that's useful, is going to earn more than $50,000 a year in the U.S. So I literally proved in this chapter with Explainable AI that if you take these fields out and then I show which one, and you have what if you have Google that gives you these nice tools to show it,
Hmm.
you can prove your point. And then you can take the black box AI and turn it into white box because now you can find the bias and you can say that's where it is and it's that field and that decision.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that got me worked up a bit.
Yeah. I saw a video you did. I think a short YouTube video where you were explaining this very concept of removing a few of the columns that shouldn't be used.
And yeah, honestly, it really, I just get off the train at that point. I'm mad when I see data in there because artificial intelligence is data driven.
Yeah.
So if you put rotten eggs in your data, you're going to get a rotten scrambled eggs at the end. You're going to get an omelet it's not going to smell well. So the first thing you want to do is go look at your data because in the middle you just have a pack of equations. So I would be very careful to look at data sets today because you can end up with a protest in front of your office in the United States, and you can end up with a 10 million euro fine in Europe.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
mentioned
one of the reasons.
Yeah, you mentioned GDPR, and there was actually a question here from Niraj. Under GDPR Articles 13 and 14, users need to be informed when AI-based automation systems are at work, as well as provided with any meaningful information regarding the logic used and the significance. So do you think this is practically happening? I guess.
I think this is absolutely happening because a person in my family is a lawyer
Yeah.
and works in that field. And believe me, if you make a decision, if you're a bank and you're using artificial intelligence, for example, like the New York Stock Exchange uses a lot of machine learning and does
Yeah.
automatic transactions, and you don't agree with that transaction, and you're saying, why did you sell all my shares? And the next day they went up. and you go to that bank and they don't give you an explanation, you
Yeah.
can they can get fined for €1 million. And if you're like, it's very serious here. If someone goes and finds racial information on you and says, "Oh, you're Arab," because in the United States the problems with the blacks, in France problems with the Arabs. So you say, "You're Arab. We found out that you were Arab, so you're probably not going to earn as much." Wow, wow, you're in real trouble. He can go to the police. He
Yeah.
can file a suit, and it will really go to the end of it, and the bank will be in big trouble anyway. So yes, it is happening, and it's going to become tougher and tougher. In fact, Google, it's in my book somewhere, got incredible fines for this. We're talking about $100 million.
Oh,
And
wow.
remember, Facebook got a $5 billion fine for something like that. $5 billion.
So who's
So
finding
yes, it's
this?
happening. It's happening.
Is this GDPR or is this in the
No,
US?
no, no. The United States is becoming strict too. Did you notice that Zuckerberg is often in the U.S. Senate? He's
No.
often in the hearings, and they're
Well,
asking him questions, and he never knows the answers. You know, he's always this naive person, very nice. Oh, yes, that. How did that information? I don't know. So I think this goes to a much deeper problem. It goes back to what we were speaking about before, but I won't speak about it. But I'll make implications. It goes about that governments are weaker than social media. For example, Apple has a higher capitalization than the gross national product of France. So
mm,
now we have these corporations that are more powerful than countries. Now, if you
yeah.
put them all together, you put Facebook, Google, Twitter, and you put all Microsoft, you put them together, they have this power, and I think it's becoming a little more powerful than governments. So the only way to stop them is the law, and the law is pretty strict nowadays.
Hmm. Yeah, I know the California has the CCPA, and I read that New York is pending some regulations that are meant to be even stricter than GDPR and CCPA, but I know they're not final. Interesting to see
Now,
where
you
that.
know, California is a special case. You know, I
Yeah.
come from New York, so I don't care about California. So, California is a special case
Okay.
because California today has some of the has geniuses like Elon Musk, like all these people. They're geniuses. They're fantastic.
He's
At
from
the same time, their state is burning down. They have a state that's burning down literally because of all these fires. But they're sending people on the moon. Okay, maybe they could send people in the deserts and create water with humidity and concentrate condense humidity into water. I
Yeah.
think they could put that to good use, and for the tens of thousands of homeless that are walking around.
Yeah, I think it's all about priorities, their personal priorities.
The priorities go to the moon. Okay, fine, go to the moon.
Yeah, I think that is his goal, is to move everybody out of Earth or
No, 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 that's not the goal.
international,
We're
intergalactic.
talking about let's do explainable technology. The goal of going to the moon, you have Jeff Bezos, you have Amazon, you have Musk, you have the NASA. There's
Yeah,
only one goal, and if you bear it in mind, you can see the logic. Is mining. If you come back with Jeff Bezos he's around $200 billion now. He's the richest man in modern history. But if he goes to the moon and he manages to mine helium-3 and other rare minerals, he's going to double his fortune. So they're selling us Mars, knowing that it's not going to happen right now, but mining can happen,
hmm.
and you can earn a lot of money. Maybe that money will help people back on Earth. Who knows?
Maybe that's the goal all along.
Sure, I'm sure that's what they're trying to do.
So
Of
then
course.
you asked for difficult questions, and I'm gonna give.
Okay.
So let's see, Andrew Jones from Data Science Infinity. So if a customer asks OpenAI to explain a decision that GPT-3 makes, how did they realistically go about this with 175 billion parameters?
That's
So
a fantastic question. I love that question because I love GPT-3. So Andrew, first of all, you know that my OpenAI has not given us the access to the source code. You can download GPT-2 on GitHub, and you can run it perfectly, but you can't download GPT-3 because they said it's too powerful, and they have to be careful.
Hmm.
So first of all, you can't get your hands on it. Since you can't get your hands on it, you can't explain it. So let's go back to GPT-2, okay? Because GPT-3 is just scaling of GPT-2. If you read their articles, their papers, you'll see that GPT-3 is just a scaling of GPT-2. Now, to explain GPT-2, you have to know that this is probably one of the greatest innovations in artificial intelligence and modern artificial intelligence. They have reached the point where they can do zero shot. That means that they will train the system. They will train the system so well that it can do natural language processing with no further training. That's where they are now.
Hmm.
So to explain a transformer, because we're talking about transformers, to explain a transformer, you have to, for the moment, there is no algorithm that, like for explainable AI, that will do the job for you. You can understand the logic when you run several models. I've run hundreds of them, so you can understand the logic. So the advice I can give you, if you've downloaded GPT-2 and you're running it for summarization and sentence predictions, what I do is I train it. What I do is I train it on my data. I take their data out of the way and I prepare a text, my text, which I know very well. I prepare my text or people I know or things I know, and then I'll run it. And when it runs, then I know exactly what it did because since I know my text by heart and I know
Yeah.
everything that's inside of it, I know how it reached that logic. So now when I take another text that I don't know about and run it, then I understand how it works. But we are talking about the most powerful system ever created. And when you're talking about 175 billion parameters, 170? There are models. I ran Yeah, you can. There are models going over that right now. So I think it's yeah. You have models that are. And hold a minute, it was 340 million, then it reached 1 billion and a billion and a half. There are a lot of parameters. So what I would say, for the moment, you have to understand the logic of it. And I'll be publishing things on LinkedIn in the next few weeks, and I'll be going deeper in the next few months. I'll be publishing posts with code, with stuff like that, like I usually do. All my
Hmm.
posts are technical anyway. I don't go into hype. I just go into code.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. We have a very easy question here from Alfred. Is this being recorded? I'll take this one, Dennis. Yes, the session is being recorded. It'll stay on LinkedIn and on Pact YouTube. And then later today, it will be on the Story by Data YouTube channel as well. See,
And
I can
and
answer.
the CIA and the Russians are listening to it.
They're all listening. Yes.
They're all listening to Kate and Dennis.
Yes, exactly. Question here from Mitchell Thompson. So, would you consider a dissection of explainable AI in terms of levels or scope that are based on the complexity of the model or based on the comprehension level of the audience? If either, what would those levels of or scope be? Functional, application, human?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because um, what I think is if you take my book and you take everything I did, you can see that you'll understand it. If you're like Kate and you're not that much into coding, but you know data. Like Kate, you're
Mhm.
like a data scientist. And now, if you're an artificial intelligence developer, that'll be super easy.
Yeah.
But let's take someone that doesn't know anything about computer science at all. Let's take that doctor, that just gets this. I don't think, I think you have to have another layer of software. You can use the answer, but I think a developer has to take the explanations given that
Hmm.
can, this could be for anybody. I mean, the answers are okay. They can reach any level, but you're going to have to transform them into a customized report of what they like to see. Maybe they want a header, they want a picture, maybe they want a little text on the right. You're going to have to customize it so it can be usable. You just can't take it and give it to a user.
Hmm.
Uh, I did that in chapter one. I did some of that where I developed, these interfaces. I also used a chatbot in chapter seven, to so that people can ask questions and get answers. So you can use a chatbot as well to say, "Did you really understand?" or "You have questions." But remember, building a chatbot is a lot of work, but it can be done. Okay, but it takes. Let's say it can be done. It takes work.
Yes. And since you mentioned code, I did have a question for you in terms of the book is Explainable AI with Python. Was there a reason why you chose Python over other languages here?
Yeah, I often get that question. In fact, I have a person in Canada right now that's writing me every day on LinkedIn, every day, sometimes twice a day, and saying,
Wait,
"Why isn't this in C++?" And then giving me 100 reasons. Now,
yours-
I'm a C++ developer. Originally, I developed most of what I did for corporations in C++.
yeah.
But the problem is right now that Python is the language that's been with PyTorch, of course, and you have TensorFlow, Carousel, this little environment, this ecosphere, it's Python. You find those artificial and programs are in Python. People work in Python. Google shares Python. The easiest thing to install is Python right now, or PyTorch with Facebook. So it's just the easiest way to learn artificial intelligence. Then, if you want to use it you can always convert what you did into C++ and use specific processors or to do it. Like NVIDIA sells these packages. You have these packages. So I say Python is the easiest language to do artificial intelligence in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Python is mainly listed as one of the most
Well,
popular
it's
languages.
rank one. It's rank one right now.
Okay. Well, I guess it depends what you're looking at, right? Like what type of.
Of course, if you're writing a website, maybe you want to use HTML, JavaScript, and PHP. If
Mhm,
you're doing industrial optimization, you want to use C++, or you might want to use Java. And if you're doing artificial intelligence, you're trying to get everything working, then you do it Python.
mhm. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I developed in all the language I just said, and you're right. It just depends on the topic.
Mhm. Question here from Kurt Groman. So, AI is still in its infancy. How and whom should defend AI from manipulation that is already taking place? Manipulations that infringe upon our privacy as well as what we think. Corporations are using this to restrict speech, and nation states use this to control citizens and influence politics. How can we ensure our privacy and speech are protected, and how can AI be used to do so?
Okay, Kurt. I have to tell you something because this is a conversation I have almost every day with my family and friends, and they're always hitting me on the head with artificial intelligence. Okay, so Kurt, I'm going to give you an answer that I'm not sure many people are going to like, but I'm going to give you the answer. So maybe Kate, you can hide behind the screen while I give the answer. So what I'm saying is human beings, I'm sorry to say, yeah, hide your screen. I'm saying human beings have issues, right? Human beings are not very stable. You have these wars, you have these riots where people, don't understand each other, and we think that's normal. But if you look at it, you can see that humans are psychologically unbalanced. I mean, the who wants to go out in the street and kill people just for an idea? Maybe you want to do something peaceful like Martin Luther King, or who wants to rob people and become super billionaires and then have people sleeping in the street right next to them. So we humans have issues. We're not fantastic. So I would say humanity is not extraordinary. But at the same time, I am an expert in deterministic chaos. I believe in chaos. I believe that the world is in chaos with a lot of people saying something and the other people saying the opposite. But I believe in the chaos theory of a mathematician, French mathematician, that says there's spontaneous order. There is
Mhm,
always something good and something bad that's going to oppose each other. Let's take the situation in the United States right now. People are looking at it and they're saying, "Gee, what's happening?" Well, it's like an earthquake that it was due. It was due. Like you have, it was due. It was due at that some point. These people are going to be angry. So you're thinking, what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. A lot of good things are going to happen. First of all, it's going to stop at one point. This is not going to last 10 years. It's going to stop, and people are going to be careful. They're going to say, oh, well, yeah, well, there might be some discrimination there. We're going to be careful. So it's going to take this violence, the people that don't agree, and at one point there's going to be spontaneous order, like blacks couldn't vote in 1950, but they could vote in 1964. Women didn't vote until 1919, and then things become average. So what I'll say, human beings always reach an average level where they're not excellent and they're not bad. Now let's apply this to your question. There's not privacy for the moment. Let's not kid each other. I'm speaking about all these laws, but every time you go on your app, there's a little thing say, do you agree? So every time you say I agree, you're going around the law again. So just look at your applications on your smartphone. You'll see everything. They're reading images, contacts, photos. There is no privacy. So, but there's a limit to that because people might, stop putting secretive information on their smartphones. There's a balance. Uh, and you're speaking about governments. Maybe you're speaking about China. Okay, well then, when China goes too far, you have people like in Hong Kong, or you have people that they get mad, or people in China are rich enough to go live somewhere else. So I believe, and I'm going to prove it to you, that human beings are not great. They're not bad, they're just average. And why is spontaneous order true in chaos? Look, we're talking, we're not all dead. Think of what we did in the 20th century. We were killing people by 50 million people at a time. I mean, this was really mass murder. We're still alive. And you know what? The human population is at like 9 billion. If we were really bad people, there'd only be, maybe one of us or two of us left, or maybe three monkeys and a dog. But, we're average, and we've always managed to find a solution, to survive. So we're not that bad. So I'm saying there is no protection for the moment, but there'll be check and balances. There's nothing to worry about in the long term.
Mhm. Thank you for that. Yeah, just to stay on topic for a second, you mentioned the phone and the apps, and I wanted to get your thoughts on who do you think is responsible? Is it the businesses? Is it the government? Or is it the public's responsibility to basically, should we, the people, say, no, I don't accept all of those, breaks of my privacy and trust? Or is it the government that says, no, you can't have those blanket statements that have people agree? Or is it the business that needs to control that?
It's it's much more simpler than everything you just said. I mean, you can simplify it. Let's say you're in New York and then you want to use Zoom on your smartphone. Okay, so
Okay.
you take your little smartphone out and you want to use Zoom on it, or you want to, and Zoom is going, or Skype is going to say, well, listen, to do that, you have to agree that I can use your camera. Otherwise, I don't see how I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now I have access to the camera, but you want to record. Okay, so you have access to the photos and the videos. Hey, say, do you want to invite people? But if you want to invite people, you're going to type their name each time. You have to remember all the people, or can we have access to your contacts? So you just type the first letters. So we're the ones that are first driving this because we want all this technology. No one, you don't have to have this. You can take this and throw it in the garbage can, but then everyone's going to be unhappy because this is the center of all our lives now. We live. This is our best friend, our family, sister, brother, the smartphone. If you take the smartphone away from of a person, you're going to feel like desperate. You took my smartphone. So we accept that. And on the other side, you have companies. Let's say you're in a startup. Okay, you start. How do you know that these people like your application? So now these people download your application for free. How are you going to pay for your mortgage next month? How are you going to pay? I just wrote this super cool application. I have 1 billion people that download it, and I respect privacy. How much do you earn? Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then you're dumb. Why don't you put advertisements in it? Well, people don't like that. It invades their privacy. Well, then you'll go broke in 2 months. So then we put ads in it. And you say, well, and you're not earning enough. But someone says, I can buy 100,000 of your contacts and I'll give you $100,000. Okay, here it is. So I have bills to pay. I have medical care to pay.
Yeah.
I just had COVID. They gave me a test for $3,000, and in the hospital, it cost me $30,000 just to spend a few days in there, and I don't
Mm,
know how to pay. Now I'm going to sell a few contacts. It's just spontaneous disorder.
yeah. All right, moving on. So, we're getting ready to wrap up, Dennis. I know we still have a bunch of questions we didn't get to, and maybe if you have time, those questions will still be available on LinkedIn if you want to go and continue conversations. But question here from LinkedIn user who's taken an extra step to protect their privacy from
Of course.
showing their name on StreamYard here. But what is your
Yes.
take on the minimum level of foundational knowledge like math, stats, and logic to explain AI models? And is this also a consideration for your book audience? So who was this book written for?
I would say for explainable AI, honestly, you have to know at, at least what I wrote in the first book. I mean, you have to have basics in artificial intelligence and know, how to understand Python. And it's not for a beginner.
Mhm.
I have to admit it's not for big. I'd like to say, oh, it's for everyone. Buy the book. No, well, it isn't. I'm sorry. I probably lost 95% of my sales. But you have to be honest at one point. So I'm selling. You have to know at least not mathematics. You don't have to worry about mathematics, but
Yeah.
you have to know how to use Python, how to download something from GitHub, install it, or open a Jupyter notebook. You need maybe a beginner knowledge. Okay, let's say it's for intermediate and advanced,
Mhm.
and you
Okay.
have to have suffered.
Yeah.
Suffering is part of it. It means that you've been working on artificial intelligence and you don't even understand what you're doing. You're suffering. Explainably, AI will help you.
Thank you. So that was the last question from the audience. Now we're actually going to reveal the winners. I've got the three people who've asked the best question. And I will say that the questions and comments that have been coming in have been really, really great. So I do appreciate everybody for the engagement and the curiosity and the questions and comments. So Dennis, while I pull up my screen, maybe tell people where they can get the book if they fit the description of those who you think are the audience. Where would they go to actually buy the book? Where's the best place?
Amazon.
Amazon. That's easy. Okay.
It's
You
easy
put,
because it's in every country. Yeah, Amazon.
I needed you to scroll while I pull up the
And
winners.
then for people that don't like Amazon, I want to say something. There are a lot of books that wouldn't be available in a bookshop if it weren't on Amazon.
Yeah.
So Nirji Sapal, Andrew Jones, and Kurt Bromand.
Mira,
Okay.
yep, Andrew Jones, and Kurt Broman. Congratulations. You will be mailed an actual physical copy of Denis Rothman's book. Um, thank you so much for asking great questions. And oh, let me just do this
The
real quick.
other questions were good too.
Yes, I know. I know. It was so hard to pick, though. That's why I had Pat help out with that. And they
That's right. We don't have to do that. We asked Pac to do that.
yes, yes. As more questions came in, the top three kept changing around, so we finally had to land on these three. But Dennis, I want to thank you so much for your time. Where can people continue the conversation if they, have
LinkedIn.
more questions?
LinkedIn. People
LinkedIn.
have connections with me can just, ask me questions that people that know me know I answer them all the time. So no problem on LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And actually, before we wrap up, for those who are still hanging around, I just wanted to announce that Pact Publishing is actually a community sponsor for the Dedicated conference. So if you wanted to sign up, it's a free event hosted in a very similar fashion here on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Live. So you could go to storybydata.com/dedicated conference to sign up. And on that note, Dennis, thank you so much
Okay.
again for doing this and have a great rest of your day.
Okay. You too, Kate. Bye bye.